The Riverside Town Hall meeting room buzzed with tension as Jimmy Carter wheeled himself to the microphone. At 68, the decorated Vietnam veteran still carried himself with dignity despite the wheelchair that had been his constant companion for 40 years. His Purple Heart pin gleamed under the fluorescent lights as he adjusted the microphone. "Mayor Thornton," Jimmy began, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "6 months ago, you shut down the VA clinic that served 200 veterans in this county. We were promised a replacement facility. Where is it?" Mayor Richard Thornton, 55, sat at the front table in his expensive suit, his perfectly styled silver hair and politician's smile never wavering. He leaned into his microphone with practiced condescension. "Mr. Carter, the city had to make difficult budget decisions. The VA clinic was operating at a loss. We've directed veterans to the new Thornton Medical Center, which provides superior care." "Your brother's private clinic," Jimmy said, steel in his voice, "which charges 3 times what the VA clinic did. Veterans on fixed incomes can't afford it." Thornton's smile tightened. Perhaps if veterans learned better financial management, they wouldn't need government handouts. The room erupted. Jimmy's hands gripped his wheelchair armrests, knuckles white with rage and humiliation. In the back row, 10-year-old Jasmine Carter watched her grandfather being mocked, tears streaming down her face. Thornton raised his hand for silence. "In fact, Mr. Carter, I'll make you a deal. If you can prove any wrongdoing in my administration within 30 days, I'll personally resign and fund your little VA clinic myself. But when you can't, and you won't, I want you and your family off that corner property of yours. My development plans don't include eyesores. Deal?" The crowd gasped. Jimmy's small home sat on a valuable corner lot that Thornton had been eyeing for his luxury condo project. "You can't force me off my property," Jimmy said quietly. "Can I?" Thornton's smile was predatory. "Eminent domain is a wonderful tool when used for the greater good. 30 days, Mr. Carter." Tick-tock. As the meeting dissolved into chaos, Jasmine slipped out of the building. She'd heard her grandfather mention the Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club, scary men who hung out at the garage 3 blocks away. Men her grandfather said were misunderstood. She ran through the darkening streets, her heart pounding, until she saw them. 7 motorcycles parked outside Duke's Auto Repair. 7 men in leather vests covered in patches, looking exactly like the dangerous bikers everyone warned her about. "Please," Jasmine shouted, running toward them. "They're stealing my grandpa's house. The mayor is trying to take everything." The largest man turned. Marcus, Reaper Stone, stood 6 feet 2 inches, his muscular arms covered in military tattoos. His sharp gray eyes assessed the crying child with the intensity of someone trained to read situations instantly. "Slow down, kid," Reaper said, his voice surprisingly gentle. He knelt to her level. "Start from the beginning." Through tears, Jasmine explained the town hall meeting, the closed VA clinic, the 30-day ultimatum, and Mayor Thornton's threat to take their home. Reaper's jaw tightened. Beside him, 6 other Iron Wolves members, Tank, Ghost, Razor, Duke, Smoke, Phoenix, and Jax, exchanged knowing glances. They'd all heard stories about Thornton's corruption, but no one had been able to prove anything. "Your grandpa is Jimmy Carter?" Reaper asked. "Purple Heart, Vietnam?" Jasmine nodded. Something shifted in Reaper's expression. "Tell your grandfather we'll be by tomorrow morning. And tell him Marcus Stone sends his respects." What Mayor Thornton didn't know was that he'd just declared war on the wrong people. Because Marcus Reaper Stone wasn't just a biker. He was a former Army intelligence officer with 15 years of experience in counterintelligence, surveillance, and exposing corruption in the most dangerous places on Earth. If you're enjoying this story of underestimated heroes preparing to take down a corrupt politician, don't forget to subscribe to find out how a motorcycle club used military-grade intelligence tactics to expose a $3 million conspiracy that shocked an entire town. The next morning, 7 motorcycles pulled up to Jimmy Carter's small, well-maintained house on the corner lot. Neighbors peeked through curtains, nervously watching the leather-clad bikers dismount. Jimmy wheeled himself onto the porch, Jasmine standing protectively beside him. His hand rested on an old service pistol, just in case. "Mr. Carter," Reaper said, removing his sunglasses. "Your granddaughter asked for our help last night." "I didn't ask for charity from a motorcycle club," Jimmy said carefully. "Not charity. Justice." Reaper gestured to his vest, where a faded Army intelligence patch was barely visible among the Iron Wolves insignia. Staff Sergeant Marcus Stone, 1st Battalion, Military Intelligence. 15 years in Iraq and Afghanistan, specializing in counterintelligence and surveillance operations. Jimmy's eyes widened. Intelligence. Tank stepped forward, a massive black man with kind eyes. Master Sergeant Thomas Tank Williams, Army Rangers. 3 tours. Ghost, a wiry Latino with sharp features, nodded. Sergeant Luis Ghost Martinez, Marine Corps Intelligence. Signal Specialist. One by one, all 7 bikers revealed their military backgrounds. Every one of them was a veteran. Every one of them had served with distinction. "We're not just a motorcycle club, Mr. Carter," Reaper said. "We're brothers who found each other after the service. We ride together. We look out for each other. And we don't stand by when one of our own gets targeted by corrupt politicians." Jimmy's grip on the pistol relaxed. "What can you do that I can't?" Reaper smiled grimly. "I can intercept communications, track financial transactions, and conduct surveillance that would make the FBI jealous. Thornton thinks he's untouchable because he controls the local police and city council. But he doesn't control me." "You're talking about illegal surveillance," Jimmy said. "I'm talking about gathering evidence of crimes already committed," Reaper corrected. "Thornton shut down your VA clinic and funneled $3 million into his brother's private medical center. That's corruption. He's threatening to steal your property using eminent domain for personal gain. That's abuse of power. And I'm willing to bet he's done a lot worse." Phoenix, the club's tech specialist, pulled out a tablet. "Mr. Carter, we've been monitoring Thornton's public financial disclosures for years. There are patterns here: shell companies, suspicious real estate transactions, connections to known criminals. But we need someone with standing to make a formal complaint. Someone the media can't ignore." "A decorated war hero," Jimmy realized. "Exactly," Reaper said. "You make noise publicly. We gather evidence quietly. In 30 days, we bury him." Jimmy looked at Jasmine, who nodded eagerly. Then he looked at the 7 bikers standing on his lawn, men society dismissed as troublemakers, men who'd actually served their country with honor. "What do you need from me?" Jimmy asked. "Keep doing what you're doing. Attend city council meetings. File complaints. Make Thornton think you're just a stubborn old man with no real leverage." Reaper leaned closer. "Meanwhile, we're going to find out exactly how deep his corruption goes." That night, the Iron Wolves transformed Duke's auto repair into a command center. Phoenix set up computer equipment that looked more like a military intelligence operation than a biker clubhouse. "All right," Reaper said, spreading documents across a workbench. "Thornton shut down the VA clinic 6 months ago, citing budget constraints. 3 weeks later, his brother Robert opened Thornton Medical Center in a building that mysteriously passed all inspections despite being a former warehouse." Ghost pulled up building permits on a screen. The renovation permits were fast-tracked. Normally takes 6 months minimum. Thornton Medical got approval in 3 weeks. "Who signed off?" Tank asked. "City Inspector Gerald Hughes," Phoenix replied, "who also happens to own a vacation property that was purchased by a shell company called Riverside Holdings LLC. Reaper smiled. "Let me guess. Riverside Holdings is connected to Mayor Thornton." "Not directly," Phoenix said. "But it's owned by another shell company, which is owned by another, which eventually leads to a partnership between Richard Thornton and his brother Robert." Smoke, the club's oldest member, whistled. "That's money laundering." "It gets better," Ghost said. "The VA clinic building was condemned and sold to another shell company for $200,000, about 1/10 of its actual value. That shell company demolished it and sold the land to a developer for $2 million. "Let me guess," Reaper said. "The developer is building luxury condos." "Thornton Plaza," Jax confirmed. "Named after our beloved mayor. And Jimmy Carter's corner lot is the missing piece for the parking structure." Reaper studied the documents. 15 years in military intelligence had taught him to see patterns that others missed. This wasn't just corruption. It was systematic theft disguised as urban development. "We need someone inside," Reaper said. "Someone who knows how Thornton operates." Duke spoke up. "There's an ex-cop. Name's Sarah Mitchell. She was investigating Thornton 2 years ago, got too close, and was fired for insubordination. She's been working as a private investigator ever since. Can we trust her?" Tank asked. "She's been trying to expose Thornton for years," Duke replied. "If anyone wants to see him burn, it's her." Reaper nodded. "Set up a meeting. Tomorrow." What they didn't know was that across town, Mayor Thornton was already making his next move. And it was far more dangerous than they imagined. Sarah Mitchell sat across from Reaper in a dimly lit diner on the outskirts of town. At 38, she still carried herself like a cop, alert, assessing, ready for anything. Her career had been destroyed by Richard Thornton, but her determination to expose him had only grown stronger. "I know who you are," Sarah said, studying Reaper's face. "Marcus Stone, Army Intelligence. 2 commendations for counterintelligence work in Kandahar. You intercepted terrorist communications that prevented 3 major attacks." Reaper raised an eyebrow. "You did your homework." "I'm a PI. It's what I do." Sarah slid a thick folder across the table. "And I've been building a case against Thornton for 2 years. But without badge authority, no one will listen to me." Reaper opened the folder. Inside were financial records, photos of secret meetings, recorded conversations, and a detailed timeline of Thornton's corruption spanning 5 years. "This is incredible," Reaper said. "Why haven't you gone public?" "I tried," Sarah said bitterly. "Thornton controls the local media. The one reporter who was willing to investigate died in a car accident 3 months later. The police ruled it accidental." "I know it wasn't." Tank, sitting beside Reaper, leaned forward. "You're saying Thornton murders people who threaten him?" "I'm saying people who investigate Thornton have a habit of dying or disappearing," Sarah corrected. "I can't prove he's directly responsible, but the pattern is clear." Reaper studied the documents more carefully. "The VA clinic. You have evidence Thornton shut it down deliberately?" "Better than that," Sarah said. "I have proof he destroyed medical records from the VA clinic to prevent a malpractice lawsuit against his brother's private practice. A veteran died from a botched surgery at Thornton Medical Center. His family was preparing to sue. Then the VA clinic records proving prior medical conditions mysteriously vanished in a fire." "That's destruction of evidence," Reaper said. "And possibly negligent homicide," Sarah added. "But without the records, the lawsuit died. The family was paid a settlement to keep quiet." Phoenix, who'd been listening silently, spoke up. "Can you prove Thornton ordered the fire?" "I have a source inside the fire department who's willing to testify that the fire was arson. But he's scared. Thornton has threatened his family." Reaper made a decision. "We're going after Thornton. Hard. We're going to expose everything. The shell companies, the VA clinic closure, the medical records destruction, all of it. But we need your expertise." Sarah smiled grimly. "What do you need?" "Access to city records. Contacts inside the police department who aren't on Thornton's payroll. And most importantly, a legal framework to make sure everything we find is admissible in court." "I can do that," Sarah said. "But you need to know something. Thornton is about to make a move against Jimmy Carter. My source says he's filed eminent domain paperwork to seize the property within 2 weeks. "That's illegal," Tank protested. "You can't just seize someone's home." "You can if you control the city council," Sarah replied. "And Thornton does. He's also hired a private security company to assist with the eviction. Ex-military contractors who don't ask questions." Reaper's eyes hardened. "He's sending thugs to forcibly remove a disabled veteran from his home." "Exactly," Sarah said. "And if anything happens to Jimmy during the eviction, it'll be ruled an accident. Just like the reporter." "When?" Reaper demanded. 4 days from now. Friday morning." Reaper stood up. "Then we have 4 days to stop him." 3 days later, Jimmy Carter received an official-looking letter delivered by a private courier. The document, embossed with the City of Riverside seal, declared his property seized under eminent domain for public development purposes. He had 24 hours to vacate. "This is illegal," Jimmy said, showing the letter to Reaper. "They can't do this." "They're counting on you not having the resources to fight back legally," Reaper replied, examining the document. "But this isn't a real court order. It's a fake designed to intimidate you." That night, Reaper and the Iron Wolves set up surveillance around Jimmy's property. Phoenix installed hidden cameras. Ghost monitored radio frequencies used by private security companies. Tank and the others positioned themselves in strategic locations, out of sight but ready to respond. At 6 a.m. Friday morning, 3 black SUVs pulled up to Jimmy's house. 6 men in tactical gear emerged, carrying batons and wearing body cameras. "This is a legal eviction," the lead contractor announced, pounding on the door. "Open up or we're coming in." Inside, Jimmy sat in his wheelchair with Jasmine beside him, both terrified but determined not to leave. "We're not going anywhere," Jimmy shouted through the door. "That document is fake. We have authorization from the mayor's office," the contractor replied. You have 60 seconds to comply. In Duke's Auto Repair 3 blocks away, Reaper watched the live feed from Phoenix's hidden cameras. Ghost, jam their body cameras. Phoenix, start recording everything on our equipment. Tank, you're with me. Reaper and Tank roared up on their motorcycles, just as the contractors were preparing to breach the door. The other 5 Iron Wolves arrived seconds later, surrounding the property. Step away from that door, Reaper commanded, his voice carrying military authority. The lead contractor turned, unimpressed. This is a legal eviction. Leave, or you'll be arrested for interference. That's a fake document, Reaper said calmly. And you know it. Which means you're attempting to commit aggravated burglary against a disabled veteran. The contractor smirked. Says who? Says the video evidence we've been recording for the past 10 minutes, Phoenix replied, holding up a tablet showing crystal-clear footage. Including your supervisor on the phone with Mayor Thornton confirming there's no actual court order. The contractors exchanged nervous glances. Tank stepped forward, his massive frame intimidating. You got 2 choices. Leave now, or explain to a federal judge why you attempted to forcibly remove a decorated veteran from his home using falsified legal documents. Ghost added, we've also documented that you're carrying weapons while impersonating law enforcement officers. That's a felony in this state. The lead contractor's confidence evaporated. He pulled out his phone, called someone, and had a brief, heated conversation. Then he signaled his team. We're leaving, he said. But this isn't over. Oh, it's over, Reaper said coldly. Because in about 6 hours, Mayor Thornton is going to have much bigger problems than one stubborn veteran. As the contractors drove away, Reaper turned to Phoenix. Did you get everything? Every word, every face, every license plate, Phoenix confirmed. Good, Reaper said. Because tomorrow morning, the whole town is going to see exactly what kind of man their mayor really is. Mayor Richard Thornton woke Saturday morning to 83 missed calls. His phone was vibrating so violently it had fallen off the nightstand. Confused and irritated, he grabbed it and saw messages from his chief of staff, city council members, his brother Robert, his lawyer, and several reporters. He turned on the television. Every local news channel showed the same headline. Mayor accused of $3 million corruption scheme, attempted illegal eviction of disabled veteran. A reporter stood outside City Hall. Shocking allegations surfaced late last night when video footage emerged showing private security contractors attempting to forcibly remove decorated Vietnam veteran James Carter from his home, using what appears to be a falsified eviction notice allegedly authorized by Mayor Thornton's office. The screen cut to crystal-clear footage of the contractors at Jimmy's door, including the recorded phone conversation confirming there was no legitimate court order. Thornton's blood ran cold. Additionally, the reporter continued, documents obtained by this station show a complex web of shell companies allegedly used by Mayor Thornton and his brother Robert to funnel $3 million from the closed VA clinic into private real estate developments. The screen now showed the financial flowcharts Phoenix had created, clear, undeniable proof of money laundering. Former Detective Sarah Mitchell, who was fired 2 years ago while investigating the mayor, has provided testimony and evidence to the FBI's Public Corruption Unit. Thornton grabbed his phone and called his lawyer. Get to my office. Now. His lawyer's voice was strained. Richard, the FBI is already at City Hall. They have warrants. And the State Attorney General's office has opened a formal investigation. That's impossible, Thornton stammered. How did they? Someone gave them everything. Financial records, recordings, testimony from multiple witnesses. Your shell companies, the VA clinic scheme, the medical records destruction, they have it all. Thornton's hands shook. Who? Who gave them this? Does it matter? His lawyer snapped. Your career is over. Your brother is being arrested as we speak. And the city council has already scheduled an emergency vote to remove you from office. Thornton ended the call and turned the TV volume up. The reporter was interviewing Jimmy Carter, who sat in his wheelchair with dignity, Jasmine beside him. Mr. Carter, what do you want people to know? That sometimes justice comes from unexpected places, Jimmy said. The men who helped expose this corruption, the Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club, are veterans like me. Society sees leather jackets and motorcycles and makes assumptions. But these men have more honor and integrity than the politician who tried to steal my home. The camera panned to show Reaper and the 6 other Iron Wolves standing behind Jimmy. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their presence said everything. Thornton's phone rang again. This time it was the police chief. "Richard, I have federal agents here with a warrant for your arrest. Charges include wire fraud, money laundering, abuse of public office, and conspiracy to commit aggravated burglary. I need you to come involuntarily." "This is a setup," Thornton protested weakly. "The evidence is overwhelming," the chief replied. "It's over, Richard." As Thornton watched his career, his reputation, and his freedom dissolve on live television, one thought consumed him. He'd underestimated the bikers. And that mistake had cost him everything. 2 hours later, Mayor Richard Thornton sat in an FBI interrogation room, his expensive suit rumpled, his confidence shattered. Across from him sat Special Agent Davis and Special Agent Rodriguez, with a stack of documents 3 inches thick. "Let's start with the VA clinic," Agent Davis began, opening the first folder. "You shut it down claiming budget shortfalls. But financial records show you diverted the $3 million annual budget into shell companies you controlled jointly with your brother." Thornton's lawyer placed a hand on his arm. "My client doesn't have to." "Actually," Agent Rodriguez interrupted, "we have recorded conversations between Mayor Thornton and his brother discussing how to hide the transactions. Would you like to hear them?" She pressed play on a digital recorder. Thornton's voice filled the room, crystal clear. "Robert, make sure the Riverside Holdings transfers show as consulting fees. The VA clinic money needs to be completely untraceable." Thornton's face went white. "We also have testimony from 8 contractors who received bribes to fast-track building permits," Agent Davis continued, "including City Inspector Gerald Hughes, who's already agreed to cooperate in exchange for leniency." "Hughes is lying," Thornton said desperately. "Is he?" Agent Rodriguez slid a photo across the table. "This is you handing him a cash envelope outside Thornton Medical Center. We have 19 similar photographs spanning 2 years. Where did you get these?" Thornton's lawyer demanded. "From a private investigator who's been documenting your client's corruption for 2 years. And from a motorcycle club whose members happen to be former military intelligence specialists." Thornton's jaw clenched. "Those bikers illegally surveilled me." "Actually," Agent Davis smiled, "they documented crimes committed in public spaces. Perfectly legal. And their surveillance equipment, all military surplus purchased legally, just happens to be far more sophisticated than most law enforcement agencies can afford." Agent Rodriguez opened another folder. "Let's talk about the medical records fire. The one that conveniently destroyed evidence in a malpractice lawsuit against your brother's clinic." "That was an accident," Thornton protested. "The fire chief disagrees. He's provided testimony that the fire was arson. And we have phone records showing you called a known arsonist 3 days before the fire." "Circumstantial," Thornton's lawyer said weakly. "Perhaps," Agent Davis agreed. "But when combined with the financial records, the bribery evidence, the fake eviction documents, and testimony from 12 witnesses, it paints a very clear picture." He leaned forward. "Mr. Thornton, you're looking at 15 to 20 years in federal prison for wire fraud and money laundering alone. Add in the abuse of power charges, the destruction of evidence, and the attempted illegal eviction of a disabled veteran, and you're looking at life." Thornton's hands shook. "What do you want?" "Full cooperation," Agent Rodriguez said. "Names of everyone involved in your operation. Every bribe, every illegal deal, every shell company. You testify against your co-conspirators, and we'll recommend a reduced sentence." Thornton looked at his lawyer, who nodded slowly. The game was over. Outside the interrogation room, Reaper watched through one-way glass alongside Sarah Mitchell. Beside them stood Jimmy Carter in his wheelchair, with Jasmine holding his hand. "Is it really over?" Jimmy asked quietly. "It's over," Reaper confirmed. "Thornton's going to prison. His brother too. The VA clinic will be rebuilt with the recovered funds. And your home is safe." Sarah smiled. The city council voted unanimously to fire Thornton and appoint an interim mayor. They've also launched a complete audit of every project approved during his administration. "How many other victims?" Jimmy asked. "At least 20, Sarah replied. "Families who lost homes, businesses forced to close, veterans denied care. But now they'll all get justice and restitution." Jimmy looked up at Reaper. "Why did you do this? You didn't know me. You didn't know me anything." Reaper met his eyes. "Yes, I did. You served your country. You sacrificed your legs for people you'd never meet. When society turned its back on you, you still fought for what was right." He gestured to his Iron Wolves brothers standing nearby. "That's what we do. We served, We came home, and society decided we were dangerous because we ride motorcycles and wear leather. But we're still soldiers. We still protect those who can't protect themselves. Tank added, people see the vests and the bikes and assume we're criminals. But every man in this club is a veteran. We earned our right to be respected. And we damn sure earned our right to fight for justice. Jimmy extended his hand. Thank you. All of you. Reaper shook it firmly. Thank you for your service, sir. Both in Vietnam and here at home. You never stopped fighting. We just helped even the odds. 4 months later, the new VA clinic opened on the exact spot where the old one had stood. The recovered $3 million, plus donations from the community, had built a state-of-the-art facility that served not just Riverside, but 3 neighboring counties. Jimmy Carter sat in his wheelchair at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, surrounded by veterans and their families. The new clinic was named the James Carter Veterans Medical Center, in his honor. Mayor Thornton was serving 18 years in federal prison. His brother Robert got 12 years. Inspector Hughes, in exchange for his cooperation, received 3 years and permanent prohibition from public service. The investigation had uncovered 23 separate victims of Thornton's corruption schemes. 17 families received restitution. 5 small businesses were able to reopen. 8 veterans received back pay for denied benefits. Sarah Mitchell was hired as the new city's ethics compliance officer, with full authority to investigate public corruption. And the Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club? They became local heroes. The Riverside Gazette ran a front-page story. The bikers who saved our town. The article detailed each member's military service, their investigative work, and how they'd exposed corruption that law enforcement had failed to address for years. Ghost's intelligence gathering had provided the initial evidence. Phoenix's technical expertise had documented everything. Tank's intimidating presence had prevented violence. Duke, Smoke, Jax, and Razor had conducted surveillance, interviewed witnesses, and protected Jimmy's home. And Reaper Marcus Stone had orchestrated the entire operation with the precision and expertise of the Army intelligence officer he'd once been. At the ceremony, the new mayor presented the Iron Wolves with a Community Service Award. These men were judged by their appearance, the mayor said. Called criminals, troublemakers, dangerous. But when our community needed help, when our official systems failed, these veterans stepped up. They used their military training, not for violence, but for justice. Reaper accepted the award on behalf of the club. We're not heroes, he said simply. We're just veterans who remember what we swore to protect. Justice for all, not just those with power and money. Jasmine, now 11, presented each biker with a hand-drawn picture of them on their motorcycles, with the words, "Thank you for saving my grandpa," written in crayon. The Iron Wolves, these tough, tattooed, leather-clad bikers, all kept those drawings. Razor framed his. Tank carried his in his wallet. Reaper hung his in the clubhouse. Later that evening, as the Iron Wolves gathered at Duke's Auto Repair, Jimmy wheeled in with a case of beer. "I thought you might want to celebrate properly," Jimmy said. They spent the night sharing stories, military service, the investigation, the look on Thornton's face when the FBI arrested him. "You know what the best part is?" Ghost said. Thornton spent his entire career judging people by their appearance, dismissing veterans, minorities, working families. He saw the leather and the motorcycles and assumed we were stupid criminals. His arrogance was his downfall, Phoenix agreed. He never imagined that just bikers could have military intelligence training. Tank raised his beer. To Jimmy Carter, for having the courage to keep fighting when everyone told him to give up. To Sarah Mitchell, Reaper added, for never stopping her investigation even when it cost her career. And to the Iron Wolves, Jimmy said, raising his own bottle, for proving that honor doesn't require a uniform, justice doesn't require a badge, and heroes come from the most unexpected places. They drank to that. 6 months ago, Richard Thornton had stood in that town hall, mocking a disabled veteran, confident that his power and connections made him untouchable. He'd seen leather jackets and assumed ignorance. He'd seen motorcycles and assumed criminals. He'd never imagined that those bikers were decorated combat veterans with intelligence training, investigative expertise, and an unshakable commitment to justice. His arrogance had blinded him to the truth. Real strength doesn't come from position or power. It comes from character, integrity, and the courage to fight for what's right even when the odds are stacked against you. As Reaper looked around at his brothers, men society feared and dismissed, he smiled. They'd been called criminals, troublemakers, dangerous. But when it mattered most, they'd been exactly what their community needed: protectors, investigators, and warriors for justice. The Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club wasn't just a group of bikers. They were proof that you should never judge a book by its cover. Because sometimes, the most dangerous people to corrupt politicians aren't lawyers or FBI agents. Sometimes they're just bikers who happen to be the most honorable soldiers you'll ever meet. If this story of courage, justice, and redemption touched you, subscribe for more stories that prove real heroes don't always look like what you expect, and that honor has no dress code.